Welcome back to State of the Union. I'm Jake Tapper. On Monday, the House January 6th Select Committee will meet for one last time, and a source tells CNN members are set to vote on referring at least 3 criminal charges to the Justice Department against Donald Trump, including insurrection, obstruction of an official proceeding, and conspiracy to defraud the federal government. Joining us now, a member of the January 6th Committee, the current chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. So you're a former federal prosecutor before you became a member of Congress. Do you think the evidence is there that Donald Trump committed any of the crimes I just mentioned and that the cases are prosecutable, that you could get a conviction?
Yeah. I think that the evidence is there that Donald Trump committed criminal offenses in connection with his efforts to overturn the election. And viewing it as a former prosecutor, I think there's sufficient evidence to charge the president.
To get a conviction now?
Well, I don't know what the Justice Department has. I do know what's in the public record. The evidence seems pretty plain to me, but I would want to see the full body of evidence if I were in the prosecutor's shoes to make a decision. But, this is someone who, in multiple ways, tried to pressure state officials to find votes that didn't exist. This is someone who tried to interfere with a joint session, even inciting a mob to attack the Capitol. If that's not criminal, then I don't know what is.
So you're going to vote yes on insurrection, on referring insurrection, obstruction of an official proceeding, and conspiracy to defraud the federal government, all 3?
I can't comment on what referrals we're going to make. We will have a vote on referrals, as well as approving our overall report. But I can tell you that our process has been to look meticulously at the evidence and compare it to various statutes. Is there sufficient evidence as to each element of a particular crime? We are not referring, or at least won't be voting to refer everyone we think there may be evidence, because we want to focus on those for which we believe there's the strongest evidence.
So I know you can't speak for the whole committee, but I'm talking about how you personally are going to vote. You're still not going to...
Well, let me just say, I'm happy to share my personal views, which is...
But do you think he committed insurrection, obstruction of an official proceeding, and conspiracy to defraud the federal government?
I don't want to telegraph too much what we're considering, but
okay.
I will say that I think the president has violated multiple criminal laws, and I think you have to be treated like any other American who breaks the law, and that is, you have to be prosecuted.
The insurrection charge is interesting. It's a specific federal statute. No one has been charged with insurrection related to January 6th, not even the Oath Keepers, who were charged with seditious conspiracy, which is a pretty serious charge. Can you explain the charge, the crime of insurrection?
Yeah. Well, there are actually 3 provisions, 3 processes for dealing with insurrection by a president. There's the criminal statute that you mentioned. There's the 14th Amendment, which makes commission of insurrection a bar to holding office. And then there's the impeachment process. And in terms of the criminal statute, if you can prove that someone incited an insurrection, that is, they incited violence against the government, or they gave aid and comfort to those who did, that violates that law. And if you look at Donald Trump's acts and you match them up against the statute, it's a pretty good match. Now, I realize that statute hasn't been used in a long time, but then when have we had a president essentially incite an attack on his own government?
There's some talk also of your committee referring to the House Ethics Committee some members of the House of Representatives who may have participated in the insurrection in some way and refused to comply with the investigation. Pennsylvania Congressman Scott Perry comes to mind. He referred Jeffrey Clark, who was this kind of obscure lawyer, he was, I guess, part of this conspiracy to get him, in some way, to get him, Jeffrey Clark, to become head of the Justice Department so he would weaponize the Justice Department. Is that also on the docket tomorrow, voting to refer for House ethics investigation your fellow members of Congress, some of them?
We will also be considering what's the appropriate remedy for members of Congress who ignore a congressional subpoena, as well as the evidence that was so pertinent to our investigation and why we wanted to bring them in. So that will be something we'll be considering tomorrow. We have weighed what is the remedy for members of Congress. Is it a criminal referral to another branch of government, or is it better that the Congress police its own?
Censure?
Censure was something that we have considered. Ethics referrals is something we've considered, and we'll be disclosing tomorrow what our decision is.
Former President Trump is under other investigations. You alluded to the one in Georgia from the district attorney of the county there. That Georgia grand jury is winding down its investigation into Trump's role in trying to get the Secretary of State to find enough votes to flip the state. There's the Mar-a-Lago documents investigation moving forward after the federal judge removed the special master. There's also the special counsel that's been appointed. Do you think that Donald Trump is going to face some kind of criminal charges in the coming months, independent from your investigation?
The short answer is I don't know. I think that he should. I think he should face the same remedy, force of law that anyone else would. But I do worry that it may take until he is no longer politically relevant for justice to be served. That's not the way it should be in this country. But there seems to be an added evidentiary burden with someone who has a large enough following. And that simply should not be the case. But I find it hard otherwise to explain why almost 2 years from the events of January 6th, and with the evidence that's already in the public domain, why the Justice Department hasn't moved more quickly than it has.
I want to turn to another topic because right now, as you know, it's the end of the year, and there are all these efforts to bring legislation that has not been brought to the floor of the Senate or the House for a vote and put it in the omnibus bill or the spending bill. Senators Amy Klobuchar and Chuck Grassley are pushing to include antitrust legislation in the omnibus to rein in the monopolistic behaviors of companies, big tech, Apple, Google, Amazon, that hurts smaller companies. It seems from the reporting I've been able to do that some of the obstacles to this happening, even a vote on it in the Senate, are Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and a bunch of House Democrats from your home state of California. They're not you, but other California Democrats. And I have to say, I'm surprised. I know that these big tech companies give a lot of campaign cash, but isn't the Democratic Party supposed to stand for this? Fundamental fairness, anti-monopolistic behavior, competition?
Absolutely, and we do. Now, I don't know the particulars of what they're proposing to include in the omnibus, and that may be the problem. I mean, these are not simple issues. I'm particularly concerned, though, about the practice some of the large tech companies have of whenever there is a budding, promising new entrant into the market, they buy them out because they don't necessarily want to develop that product line themselves, but they don't want the competition. And we should absolutely take aim at that and other anti-competitive actions of big tech. And I think we've got a big problem right now with social media companies and their failure to moderate content and the explosion of hate on Twitter. The banning of journalists on Twitter. I don't think these companies should enjoy an immunity from liability when they behave this way. We can't tell them what to say or not say, but we gave them immunity. We said, if you'll be responsible moderators of content, we will give you immunity. They haven't been, so why should they continue to enjoy that immunity from responsibility and liability?
Are you talking about getting rid of Section 230, is it? Is that what you're...
I am. I think Section 230 either should be much more narrowly drawn so that companies have to have a clear policy, what their community standards are and transparency and accountability, how they implement it. They shouldn't be using algorithms to accentuate fear and hate and loathing. And if they do, they shouldn't have any kind of safe harbor.
All right, Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you so much. Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
Good to see you.